So, how's everybody doing? There we go. Before I start, I'm going to give a little bit of context as to who we are, what we do, etc., etc. So first, let me start with Moglix. Moglix is essentially a B2B procurement partner. We deal with both large enterprises and SMEs. We essentially go in there and we'll take up your entire order book, and we'll say, listen, you have a 1,000 crore order book across a long tail of suppliers and a long tail of products, the bulk of which you're not actually an expert on. You're an expert on your core raw materials. So why don't we come and take over the entire journey for you, single point of contact across your suppliers and across all your products. Moglix Online, which is what I run, moglix.com, specifically targets the SME business as opposed to the enterprise business. The enterprise business is the feet on street model where we do physical sales, B2B, relationship management, sort of very traditional B2B sales. The online bit is where we talk to small and medium enterprises. Our definition of small and medium enterprises is 0 to 100 crores is a small enterprise, 100 to 500 crores is a medium enterprise, and thereafter are large enterprises. The topic, and I'm not sure if this was a joke or I misunderstood the assignment, the topic I believe I came to present is how to empower SMEs or how e-commerce helps SMEs. Having spent yesterday listening to all of you, I could not think of a worse topic to present to a bunch of people who are in the digital marketing space as essentially pitching this every day to your customers or to a handful of offline online brands who take the digital journey very, very seriously. So as of last night, I had essentially two options. One is to skip the Sufi night, remake the presentation, and go back to my associate days. The second option was to come with the same presentation and, like a good sales guy, completely change what was written on the slides and talk about something completely different. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. What I would like to offer slightly differently, slightly new, is the target audience that I deal with will go absolutely blank the moment you say ROAS, CAC, CPM, CPC. These are not the guys who are interested. They're interested in sales, but they're usually small entrepreneurs who are building fairly basic industrial products, chairs, pumps, pipes, so on and so forth. Simplified product, sort of complexity and so on and so forth. They want sales, but they're very unfamiliar and uncomfortable with the online e-commerce market. So most of our pitch is basically to go in there and say, this is why you should be doing e-commerce, much of what you guys may be doing, but in a less sophisticated manner. So what I wanted to talk to is, what are the objections, even in 2022, after all of this hype, what are the objections we face when we actually go in there and talk to them? For me, this was a learning experience. Perhaps it would be similar. So like I said, my job was empowering SMEs through e-commerce. So we go in there and we basically try to sell 5 or 6 value adds as far as e-commerce is concerned. Uniquely in Moglix, we are a marketplace as far as my SMEs are concerned, where I am both simultaneously the buyer, because I buy industrial products and I sell it to other people, and at the same time, I'm also one of the potential vendors, because I, again, sell industrial raw materials and mid-light products that they want. So I end up catching both ends of the transaction. We also have a tech stack in between to help them operationalize their business. So I won't read all of that. Again, you guys know this stuff far, far better than me, and you guys are making far more sophisticated pitches than me. But why is it and what is it that we face when we go back there? So when we go back there and we go and say distribution, we find immediately all the people that we talk to, all our potential suppliers are super excited. Yeah. I want business. And we're like, come online. They say yes, and they will never come online. Right? And you're like, oh, that's a bit of an exaggeration, but most will not. It's a very long sales cycle. So it took us a long time to figure out that we know they're interested in sales. We're offering them a sales channel. What fundamentally are the blockers? So we found a lot of blockers that were not necessarily directly communicated. A lot of them do cash sales as a component of their overall book. And the moment you go online and that component is removed, they're a little uncomfortable on how to do some of the creative accounting that they need to do in order to make their businesses run, right? So that is one of the things, and this is not, again, unless you build some deep trust with the customer, he's not going to come and tell you this offline. He also knows what he's doing. He has no interest in necessarily sharing it. The second aspect that we find, again, which is below the table, not necessarily mentioned, is they don't actually have, like most of the family firms here, they're very, very undercapitalized. So the cash flow that the business is generating is used for his day-to-day living and for the business. And it's in constant sort of, there's a lot of demand for that capital. So what they can't actually do is provide credit. Now, to an extent, they do provide credit to the market, the ADs and super stockists and so on and so forth. But again, those are very different relationships. They don't pay the credits. The ADs sometimes are late. They take early money. It's a much longer and older relationship. So they're more comfortable with that kind of flexibility of credit, even if they're supplying it to. The moment they go to a larger organized player and they need to provide credit to the customers, because I'm going to pay them after my customers have paid me, that actually breaks their cycles and they usually don't have credit for it. And again, these are solutions we can offer, but very, very few suppliers will actually come out and say, especially the moment you go to tier 2, tier 3, ki paisa nahi hai, I don't have credit, make a business. He will not say that. He'll say yes, but he will not actually come in and do this. Thank you kindly. The third and fourth aspects that we see are, if we take the products online, there are two fundamental models. One is, we will ask you to fulfill the product yourself. It's usually cheaper, you have your local transporter, etc., or you can go through me. The moment I ask you to do the fulfillment, this is again a activity, a business process you're not used to. The three of you guys, your father, your son, maybe one more guy who's running the entire business. It's fairly hard to build what we tend to think of a fairly simple function, but it's very, very hard for them to set up this distribution. If they use my distribution, vendor managed inventory, or as Amazon calls it, FBA, then again the credit period aspect comes in, because we'll usually take it in consignment. Once we sell it, so its credit period actually extends for the inventory period as well. The last thing and the fourth thing that they cannot actually do that they struggle with when it comes to sales is returns. Now, you guys are all operating in the Indian space. You guys know that depending on the product and the industry, you have returns up to maybe even 30% of returns back to office. So while we're fairly good at telling them upfront that, listen, you need to make sure you build this into your business model because we don't want to lose you in 2-3 months, please expect there will be an X amount of returns. So they can build it into the numbers, but what they really, really struggle with is operationalizing it. So we went to one of our suppliers. He has one storeroom that is only full of return items. And I'm like, dude, why are you still manufacturing if you have so much returns? He's like, boss, अब हर को मेरे को खोलना है, किसमें डैमेज है, किसमें नहीं डैमेज है, मुझे नहीं मालूम, इसमें पेंट करना, मेरे पास छोटा पेंट करने का जगह नहीं. So they basically can't handle the returns. It's not the cost component of it, but the handling of returns specifically for our kind of products tends to be a struggle. This is fundamentally sort of the blockers that it comes to when we're talking about sales. So they're interested in sales, but they don't come online. And these are the kind of challenges that we face, which I found very, very fascinating. I've done a lot of seller onboarding in my prior days, and the sets of challenges we faced were completely different. Most of these challenges I found to be very unique, both to India and perhaps to the kind of suppliers, both in terms of size and products that we're targeting. The second is marketing. This was actually a great insight. One of the things that we would require is obviously a marketing budget. Again, I'm sure that's music to your guys' ears, but it's really not, you're not going to go online and sell a product no matter how good that product is unless you push something. Most of these guys will balk the moment you say, boss, give me X percentage of marketing expenditure. So हम marketing नहीं करते. Marketing ये waste time होता है, ये बड़े companies का होता है. Okay. You can charge them the exact same amount by calling it a sales incentive. So all we do is now, when we go to our suppliers, our pitch is not give me, hypothetically, 5% as marketing expenditure to launch your products. No. Give me 5% incentive on sales in order to push. It's the exact same thing. I use it in exactly the same way. It's just a slight change in pitch, which changes the amount of people who are willing to give me that monetization fee. The last thing that we talk to them about customers, and this actually surprisingly is of almost no interest to them, especially in the beginning of the journey. They're like, boss, itna complicated product nahi hai. My AD tells me everything. My distributor, he will tell me when there's a product problem. Customers don't tell shit. They put bad reviews on the website. So they somehow or the other, which was again surprising to me, don't value the customer aspect of the online journey initially. There's a bunch of stuff that we can do in operations that we do in operations. This actually tends to be the most useful aspect for them, and also the aspect that is the last of our customer journey. So we usually, when I'm trying to onboard a person, sales is usually the best way to do it. Listen, I'm coming here to give you incremental revenue. Let's start. Once I do that, then I move to purchase. Why don't you buy your products from me? And once I've built a much longer relationship, Only then do I get into helping them with their ops. So I'm going to skip this part. I'm going to jump into the pricing bit and the purchase bit, pardon me. While we are selling the same three things to all our customers, whether they're small, medium, or enterprise, the pitch is actually completely different on where you're going or how you start. When we're going to large firms, the fundamental aspect that they're paying us for is the aggregation of all their suppliers. Because I have a single point of contact, one bill. I don't know how to buy chairs and glasses and flowers. I know how to buy, iron ore and steel. That's what iron ore and coal, that's what I do. So they're paying us for aggregation and they're paying us for transparency. And they're fundamentally paying us because in a large organization, they're a lot more comfortable that their purchase department is not compromised, that they're robust, that their purchase process is robust, because we ourselves are not going to be doing anything, they're not interested in doing anything. That's the service they buy. That's not the same problem statement for an SME, because he's usually the guy himself going and buying the chair and so on and so forth. So he's not really worried about his purchase manager. He usually doesn't even necessarily have a purchase manager for non-core stuff. The value that we're basically giving him is far earlier in the customer journey, which is fundamentally discoverability and efficiency. So if you're sitting in a tier 2, tier 3 sign, you don't have 66 shops to go and buy chairs or XYZ from, and even if you want a good deal or pumps from. So what we're essentially allowing them to do is that, listen, there's a larger universe out there, which you can discover all the pumps, and they don't only have to be sold in Muzaffarnagar in UP, they can be sold in Delhi, Noida, whatever, and we will give you that access. And we are your in-between player, right? We'll take the product back, etc. So we're helping them with the discoverability aspect of the sales journey. Once we've done that, then we go into, which is basically an extension of this. The market tends to be much smaller. They tend to only buy from the local areas for various reasons. And we start opening up at least the domestic market, if not the international purchase market for them. Finally, what we end up doing, depending on the size of our players, is we go in and integrate into their ERP systems, procurement systems, and so on and so forth. So over a period of time, again, this is far more relevant for my larger players than for my tiny players. They tend not to have a lot of IT in there, is we integrate with the ERP system, so we also eliminate the requirement of POs. So we've signed an annual rate contract with you. We know that you're roughly aiming at 100,000 units of X, Y, and Z. We'll track your ERP and stuff will keep flowing into your warehouse as and when you need it. You don't each time have to come and renegotiate the price or renegotiate the product itself and so on and so forth. So broadly, this is what we're doing. I'm hopefully not eaten up a lot of my time. I'd love to open this up to questions if there is anything I can answer. And I think I was also requested to end with what is one particular need that you face that the teams can solve here. So the core challenge that I'm trying to solve, which would be relevant in this place, is much of the same challenges that a D2C brand is actually spending right now, which is we spend a whole lot of money, multiple crores a month on performance marketing. And much like everybody else, we're basically now trying to clean up and make it a lot more regimented than it was perhaps in the growth years. Now, specifically for us, we're also, of course, trying to target very specific types of customers and very specific geographies and so on and so forth. Retention is extremely important to us. I'm sure it's for everybody else. But I need to make sure that they also come back to me for parts, not just for buying, perhaps a shirt or a phone again, but they need to be comfortable enough to come back to me for buying the main product and then all the sub parts. So the key challenge that we're working on and the key thing that I would sort of love to engage with the networkers on is parts of the puzzle that will help us improve our performance marketing aspect. Thank you. Okay. Lovely. Thank you very much. Should I leave that here?
Yeah, you can leave that.